Get into it just because I know everybody's got stuff to do. Good morning, everybody. My name is Yousef, Badou. We're going to go over some behavior analysis stuff. I'm glad you could be here today to knock out this training. It's been really good stuff. I've been getting a lot of good feedback from it. So we're going to go over some concepts that go into the predictive analysis of behavior, kind of a little bit about my background, where this came from, and where it's going and what it can do for you, all right? So hopefully some of y'all have seen my content before. I'm just starting out. I'm just starting to build this stuff out. So I'm producing as much as I can and hoping people really enjoy the content because it's vitally important. Before we get into the subject matter, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Yousef Badou. Yes, I'm an Arab. It's okay. Don't anybody freak out on me. We'll get through this. We'll be okay. I spent about 10 years in the Marine Corps in the infantry, where I did a lot of combat tours to Iraq. I did the invasion and the two subsequent ones after that. Because of my name, you could probably figure out I got some background. I came from Kuwait originally. My family's over there. I'm American also at the same time. And I joined the Marine Corps in 2002 after the Gulf War in 1990. Went with the Marine Corps. I also speak Arabic, so everybody, you all can do the math on that one. I was an Arabic-speaking Marine in Iraq at the time. So the Marine Corps definitely got their use out of me. And after the fact, I landed in a small, tiny program, a little school called Combat Hunter. Some of you might have heard about it before. Some of you might have not have, but it was a tiny program in the military. And we were dealing with a new threat on the battlefield. Not necessarily a new threat, but we had to find a new way to deal with it. In that we were fighting an enemy that could put on civilian clothing. They didn't wear a uniform. They could take shots at us or ambush us or whatever it is, and then slink off into the civilian population, and we wouldn't be able to find them. Okay, what do you do to that? How do you combat that? Someone pops out of a crowd, takes a shot at you, and gets out of there. So we had to get really smart real quick, all right? And the commanding general at the time, General Mattis, I'm sure everybody knows him, he said, you know what? This is not happening. This doesn't happen to Marines. What was happening was there was a sniper on the battlefield, and he was basically hunting us out there in the battlefield. And General Mattis said, you know, screw that. We are not the hunted. Marines are not the hunted. We are the hunters. So go find me all the experts in the world and develop this program that I can give you a mindset. I can give you situational awareness. I can hand it to you without having to be a cop for 20 years or see some of these crazy incidents that the military gets into. I can literally hand you these lessons that we learned over there, and they can keep you safe right here in America, if that makes sense. So the direct application to this stuff is very strong. This isn't just Jim Bob's behavior awareness course, okay? I didn't just come out of nowhere. I worked at that program for 5 years as a Marine. Then when I went to get out, they brought me back in and said, hey, you want a job? Came back as a civilian, a DOD civilian, and I spent another 5 years. So a total about 10 years in the program, teaching for them, before I decided to go out and realize the message here is so important, especially in nowadays when all this crazy stuff is happening. I think everybody in this chat would probably agree that the world is in a state of flux right now. You have geopolitical things happening. You have refugee populations moving. You have our own politics right here in America that are happening. A lot of crazy stuff. This last webinar last week on Thursday, I had a guy call in from Paris, France. He was right there in the thick of it. And if you don't know what's going on in Paris, we're having a lot of riots and a lot of craziness right now. So things are flexing. People are scared. People are paranoid. All right. And the problem with paranoia, my enemy is paranoia. With paranoia, when you're walking around paranoid, afraid of everything, you're looking for threats all over the place. All right. You're always looking out for those threats. And that's not an efficient way to operate. All right. You cannot operate for long term if you're always out there looking for threats. All right. Because what happens is you only have a certain amount of brain currency given to you every day, or I should say attention currency. Let's say hypothetically you start every day with $1,000 of awareness currency. That's what you get, okay? That's what you get to spend for the day. If you spend that money at 10 o'clock in the morning, you've exhausted all your energy observing for whatever, guess what? That's it. 10 o'clock, you're broke. You don't have any more awareness currency left, all right? So I want to teach you to focus on what you need to focus on, and don't spend all this energy trying to take in threats from everywhere, because you'll burn out. And Murphy's Law will tell you the second you burn out is the 1 second that you're really going to need that information, or you're going to see that observable and you're going to need it. So I want to stop paranoia, and I want to teach you how to focus your information, focus your observations. All right. So how do we do that? Where does this stuff come from? What's the pattern here? Everyone remembers, I'm going to share a screen right here. Gentry, can you see my screen? I'm sorry, when I show it here in a second, just give me a thumb. All right, everybody see that? Your brain is trying to kill you. Why I call it that? Because your brain is truly trying to kill you. It really is. It does a lot of goofy stuff at any given point in the day that for 99% of the population doesn't really affect you. Okay, for most of the population, it doesn't really affect them because they're not really exposed to threats on a given day, like maybe a cop or a military or like a bouncer who has threats all day. So it's not the forefront of our brain. 99% of the population walks around with zero situational awareness. All right. And it's not their fault. They're not bad people. You know, people get, you know, you hear people throwing out the term sheep a lot. You know, oh, that person's a sheep. They have their head stuck in the ground. Sometimes that's a decision they came to, but sometimes, most of the times, it's not their fault because they just don't know. They've never been conditioned to it. They don't have context or relevance on whatever it is you're talking about. So exposure is the first step. You have to show those people. So that's what I want to do here, and show you some of the goofy things your brain does at times of stress. And the great thing is just a simple fact of knowing that these things happen can stop them from happening if you ever encounter violence or a threat. All right. So to first start off, let's talk about some of the goofy stuff the brain does. Gentry, is that all blown up all the way?
I see the entire PowerPoint application.
Oh, okay. So how about now?
There you go. Perfect.
There you go. So your brain's trying to kill you. So where do these behaviors come from? Situational awareness, patterns and habits that we want to observe for. You got to understand one thing. You got to hit like the I believe button in a lot of my presentations. And the one thing you got to hit first to set your mind up is that humans are creatures of habit. We're all creatures of habit, all right? We create habits and patterns all day, every day, all right? And if I asked you, and you can answer yourself, or you can put it in the chat, whatnot. If I asked yourself, how much are you paying attention to today? How much information are you taking in on a given day? Why do we create these habits and patterns, all right? Because they're easy. Your brain doesn't need a whole bunch of energy or information to conduct these habits or patterns. And we all create them all day, every day. My guys in the chat room, all the guys in here, let me ask you this. Did you wake up this morning and like shave your face in a completely different fashion than you did the day before? Is that what happened? Most likely not. You all got up and you shaved your face in the same pattern you shaved like you did every other day when you wake up. So that's an example of a habit or a pattern. And again, your brain likes that. It's easy. It doesn't have to take a lot of time. I think I read a study one time, don't quote me, but it was like the 3 or 4 minutes before you, as you're driving away from your home in the morning, those 3 or 4 minutes, you're not even like legally conscious. You're not even all awake. Meanwhile, you're driving around in a 3,000-pound weapon and you're not even all awake. But we're so used to that we just go on autopilot. All right. And why I'm talking about these habits and patterns, because I want to teach you how to look for these habits and patterns, because it goes much farther than that. It gets much more complex when we create these habits and patterns. Okay. Once you understand habits or patterns, you can start figuring out someone's motivation, or vice versa. If you figure out someone's motivations, you can sometimes figure out patterns and habits and observe for them. All right. So that's what we want to look for. We want to observe these habits and patterns that people create and identify them. All right. And the whole point of this is, why am I talking about the brain and the behavior and these habits we create? Why I want to teach you these things, these specific observable indicators, is because of this concept right here. You might have heard of it. Some of you might have read about it, but I'll explain it right here. And the term is left of bang. All right. People might have seen that around, maybe heard me talk about it and explain the concept. This is the God we pray to. This is the God I pray to when you come to me and I'm trying to train you on stuff. Everything ties back to this, is building a left of bang mindset, being able to be aware of pre-event indicators. So what we have here is an incident timeline. This is your incident timeline of whatever event it is. Bang right here in the middle. Bang is right there in the middle, and that's the one thing you want to avoid. Bang is your bad event. Bang is your violence, your shooting, your bombing, your kidnapping, whatever it is. That bad thing we all want to avoid. We don't want to deal with that. Things that happen right of bang, things that happen after the fact, right? So you have violence, you have an incident, whatever happens after the fact, and you have all these things that happen after. You have bad guys, and you have the good guys. As I write backwards. Excuse my handwriting, the bath salts are starting to kick in, getting a little... bad guys and good guy actions, right? So after the bad stuff happens, are there actions that the good guys do? Yeah, they get on scene, they get a perimeter, they call fire, they start treating people, so on and so forth. Bad guys, do they have actions after the fact? Yeah, they do. They got to get out of there. They got to get their camera, their propaganda. They want to escape if that's part of the plan, so on and so forth. So there's all these things that happen right of bang after the fact. And for a long time, us in the military, when we were out there in Iraq and Afghanistan, we were operating in this realm, the reactionary side. Something would happen and we'd react to it. All right. Put it in simpler terms, Marines, we like to get in fights. And that's what we did over there. We'd wander around looking to get into a fight. And we were really good at that. And we're also really good at finishing those fights when we got into them. All right. So that's what we do. You know, Marines, we take the bad guys out. But think about it like this. If that's the only way we operate is reactionary, and you need to understand how to react to certain situations. If you're doing martial arts or training shooting or whatever it is, you got to know how to do this. You got to train to the standard. I'm not saying it's not important. But there's another side of the coin we can look at. There's another side of the coin we can address. All those little pre-event indicators left of bang before this event happened, all right? And all we got to do is look at one of these pre-event indicators, and that's my thread, what I call a thread. I can pull on that thread long enough. What starts to happen when I pull on the thread long enough? Bang doesn't happen. You disrupt this from ever happening. That's sexy to me. That's a good day for me, all right? Because if we were only operating reactionary and you guys were my unit, my Marine unit over there in country, and that's only how we were operating, it's like, all right, everybody, we're going to go out and we're going to do a patrol. We're going to walk around the town. Hey, you're going to get shot and you're probably going to get your legs blown off. So, all right, let's go. You think that's going to put people in a good mindset to go out there and do their job? No, not at all. Okay, so you need to understand this, but let's try to live left of bang. Let's look for those left of bang pre-event indicators. And here's the cool bit. All you got to be is right one time. You got to be find one pre-event indicator, you be right one time. A cop told me this one time. He asked me a question, and I'll bring it up for you, chat. Gentry, you can answer whatever. I'll ask you this. A criminal who's out there, like a career criminal who's out there doing his crime, doing his dirt. When he's doing his little criminal acts, how often does that criminal have to be right, okay, to not get caught? He's out there doing his little acts. How often does that criminal have to be right to not get caught? Anybody? Every time. He has to be right every time. Think about it. He can't mess up. Anytime he's doing his surveillance or reconnaissance or actions or whatever he's doing, he has to be right all the time not to get caught by cops. How often does a cop have to get right? How often times does a cop have to be right? One time. One time. That's all he's got to do is find one of those pre-event indicators. He pulls on that thread, do a little investigation, and boom, all of a sudden, bang, unravels. All right. So I hope everyone can understand that concept, because everything I do ties back to this. Everything we talk about in these trainings all ties back to this in some form. So I want to say all this cool stuff, give you all the observables, but it's all to feed this beast right here, is to keep you operating left to bang and keep that left to bang mindset. All right. So that's the background, is sort of kind of left to bang concept. And again, going back into those habits and patterns, right? And when I started talking about habits and patterns, people were like, well, you know, that's cool. That sounds cool, but we're all so different out here, right? Gentry, can you see that full screen?
Yes.
We're all so different. I'm different from someone from Afghanistan. You're different from someone from Sweden and Africa, and so on and so forth. And you'd probably all agree to that. Are we different from those people? Yeah, for sure. Everyone's very different. You know, we're different from other people in the ways we dress, the ways we talk, our language, ethnicity, how we socialize, so on and so forth. You could go on all day talking about all the different ways we're different. And you'd be correct. But the one thing we all share in common with every human being out there is what you're looking at right there, that brain. We also share the brain, obviously, with all these other animals in the animal kingdom, all right? But there's a specific distinction that makes us different from the animal kingdom, that allows us to operate and be who we are, and that's your brain, all right? General Mattis used to tell us, and I served under him for 3 tours, and his quotes are great. Just look up General Mattis quotes; they're fantastic. But he used to tell us the most important 6 inches on the battlefield is right between your ears. You know, your brain dome. So use it. Okay, make sure you're using it, but make sure you're using it in the correct manner. All right. So human beings, we're on top of the food chain. We're very smart, and that's great. All right, and that comes from a specific part of the brain. But here's the thing that can actually hurt us, all right? And I'll break down what that means. So in the brain, I'm not going to get into a big whole neuroscience class, but I'll tell you, there are different parts of the brain. Let me minimize this real quick and bring me back up. There's different parts of your brain that affect your decision-making during different times, all right? There's 2 types of thinking you need to think about for my class here today. Critical thinking and intuitive thinking. Or critical decision-making or intuitive decision-making. Those are the 2 types of the realms we live in, all right? Critical thinking is when you have the time and you have the safety and you have the resources to really dig in and really research the heck out of a situation. Think of you want to pick the right college to go to, or you want to pick the right college for your kids to go to, an investment plan, a 401k, buying a house. You're going to spend a lot of time and effort making sure you can make the best decision you can, obviously. That's a good way to operate. You need critical thinking. It helps us do, it's what makes us human. But here's the other side of the coin, all right? So critical thinking, smart, best decision. Intuitive decision making, when you're making snap judgments, you're not going to make the best decision. Guaranteed. Right now, I don't say a lot of guarantees, but I guaranteed you will not make the best decision. You might get lucky and make a 50, 60, 70% decision when you use intuitive decision making, all right? Why that's important is, I'll put it in a quote like this. When times of stress, when violence happens, when stuff goes down, the 70% solution right now is a lot better than the 100% solution too late. Everybody see what I'm talking about? The 70% solution right now is a lot better than that 100% solution too late. Okay? Think about this incident timeline. Everybody look at my incident timeline. Remember, bang right here in the middle. I'll ask everybody in this chat, you can put in chat, verbalize, whatever. Is bang waiting for you? Is bang waiting for you to make a decision? Is bang waiting for you to do something? No, it is not. Bang will roll right over your sorry butt and not give 2 distinctions about it if you don't make the decision. So I want you looking for these prevent indicators and actually acting on them. That's one of the biggest things when people see threats. I'll go into it like this. The biggest way people get in trouble when they observe threats is they establish a baseline. This is how you're supposed to do it. How you're supposed to do is you're supposed to establish baselines on the areas you're in. So whatever setting or context you're in, a school, a Starbucks, a shopping mall, whatever it is, you always want to start establishing baselines whenever you get there. This is simply trying to figure out what the rules are to this setting or context. What are the rules? Ask yourself that. You walk into a mall. What are the rules to a mall? What should people be doing in a mall? Buying, shopping, selling, socializing, eating at the food court. Should anybody be overtly uncomfortable in a food court or overtly aggressive? No. It's a mall, Christmas time maybe, people getting irritated, but now you're establishing baseline, what should be, what the norm is for that area. And then you start hunting for anomalies. You start hunting for those deviations from your baseline, all right? And where people really get in trouble is they don't make a what? Not sure I spelled that correctly, but we'll go with it. They fail to make a decision. So this is my biggest sticking point. I teach people all these observable indicators, and I've trained over 4,000 or 5,000 United States military and law enforcement and marshals. I'll get them to the point where they can really get good at establishing baselines. And I'll get them good at really figuring out where those anomalies are and picking them out of the crowd. But where's my big disconnect? Decision and action. All right, this is where people get hemmed up. When you have a baseline and you spot an anomaly, you must make a decision. You have to, okay? I'm telling you that. I have no idea what your background is. I have no idea what you do. I don't know if you're a normal, every day, you work at Starbucks, you're a cop, or mill. I have no idea what your background. I can't tell you what to do or how to do. Every setting and situation is different, but I tell you this. If you got a baseline and you spot an anomaly, a deviation from that, it's time to make a decision. It's time to act on that decision. That is my biggest disconnect, because people will see that baseline, they'll spot the anomaly right off the bat, but then they want to have a conversation about it. Then they want to get their buddy and have their opinion on it. Okay, again, going back to that left of bang theory, is bang waiting for you? It is not. Bang will roll right over you if you're not paying attention, all right? And that smart part of our brain that causes that, that's an example of paralysis by analysis, all right? We're trying to come up with 100% solution. We see a threat or violence or whatever, and we're trying to figure out the 100% solution when all you got to do is just start moving, man. Just start moving. Just start doing something. I used to tell my Marines, man, if it's like the Alamo situation and like everything's gone bad, and if an infantryman is ever shooting his pistol, that's a very bad day. A lot of things have gone very bad. And I'd tell them, hey, if you got in that situation, or we get into that Alamo situation, you better go down screaming orders. I don't even care if the orders make sense. You just better be ordering something to do something. Get them moving, all right? There's a fantastic line that I love to steal from Iron Man 3. If you don't remember anything about this training or anything I'm talking about, if you don't remember anything, I need you to remember these 2 words that I'm about to write, all right? Make that a little bit more legible. Stopping. Again, if you take any away from my training, when stuff goes down, when you're threatened with violence or anything happens, just remember these 2 words: stopping. There's that scene in Iron Man where Tony Stark's house is getting blown up and there's explosions and helicopters, and Pepper, his girlfriend, is in there. Remember this? And he makes the Iron Man suit go on Pepper, and it pops onto her, and she's sort of stuck. She doesn't know what to do. Things are blowing up, and she just doesn't know what to do. She's frozen, and he looks at her, and she looks at him. She goes, "What do I do? What do I do?" And he goes, stopping. That right there. Okay, these 2 words can save your life one day. Get moving. Figure out the 100% solution later. In that time and place, in that emergency, get yourself moving. Get people moving. Get them towards an exit. Whatever it is, pick an action and go with it. Okay, because people try to get caught in paralysis by analysis, trying to take in all that information, and bang, rolls right over them. All right, let me show you. I'm going to share a slide here in a second. All right, why do we do all this stuff? Why are we talking about baselines and anomalies? 1 second. Is to build a specific type of mindset. Gentry, can you see me full screen right now? All right, perfect. All we want to do is build these observable mindsets, understand physiological responses in the brain, understanding fear responses. I do all this stuff to hand you a hunter mindset. Look at that slide you see up there. I want to build and I want to hand you a hunter mindset. I don't care if you've never hunted in your life. I don't care if you don't like hunting or whatever it is. I'm not talking about physically hunting. I'm talking about having a hunter mindset. And what do I mean by that? What's a good hunter mindset? Let's say I'm a hunter and I want to go bag a mule deer buck. I want to go hunt and I want to take home a mule deer buck. I live right here in California, in Orange County. It's pretty urban where I live. We're next to a major freeway, the 5 freeway. It's huge. And everyone on the 5 freeway, if you've ever been to California, everyone's going about 100 miles an hour. That's the baseline for that freeway, you know. If I'm a hunter and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go find my deer, and I just park on the 5 freeway and I just start wandering around on the side of the highway, am I going to be a very successful hunter? Probably not. Probably going to get shot by CHP when that happens. So what does a smart hunter do? A smart hunter will go to where the game is. He'll study his game. He'll study where they live, and he'll go start looking for things. What are some things that hunter will look for in those areas? Anybody have an answer? Somebody's got a question right here. They're looking for sign of that animal. They're looking for signs. They're looking for water, watering holes, food, things that animals need. right? Do animals have needs that must be fulfilled? Yes, they need food, they need water. And a smart hunter understands that. So I'm going to go to where the game is, and I'm going to sit there in my tree stand, and I'm going to wait for that game to come to me. That's a much more efficient way to do business. That's a much smarter way to do business as a hunter. So how can we take that mindset and apply it? Again, same thing. Look for those pre-event indicators. Build that mindset, and you're always hunting for those anomalies, proactively hunting for those anomalies, all right? You see another thing on there that says, acting like a bad guy makes you a better good guy. There's so much truth in that statement right there. I could build a whole another training course just on that one statement right there. Thinking like the bad guy will make you a better good guy, all right? What do I mean by that? It's fun to put the bad guy hat on once in a while. And we've all done it before. We've had like, rob a bank, you see a cool movie and whatnot. But I want you to actually try this exercise. I want you to go home today, or if you're at home or whatever, go in front of your home, put on that bad guy hat on, go, okay, I'm going to break into my home. How would I do that? How would I physically do that? Don't worry. Don't tell yourself, oh, I have alarms, I have a dog. Don't say any of that stuff. That's only information that you know. That's not information that outside, criminal types would know. Just look at the outside of your house, the facade of your house, and go, how am I going to do this? How am I going to B&E this house? All right? And go through the steps. Please don't physically, throw a rock through your window. Why am I saying this? You don't want to do that. But do that, and you will understand the criminal mindset and go, okay. And what it does is it breaks it down, and it's not so mystical anymore. It's not so strange. You're like, okay, they're humans just like me. We create habits just like them. We plan things just like them. They don't have access to some vast wealth of criminal knowledge that no one knows about. They plan things out just like us. So put that bad guy hat on. You'd be very surprised how much more information you can glean about your own security posture. We got a question I'm going to take real quick. So Jose says, even if I'm out of my element, thinking like a hunter seems to help me get in to the potential threat's head. It also helps keep anxiety under control. Jose, I could kiss you on the face right now. That's 100% correct. These concepts, why I'm talking about the brain, why you need to know about the brain, and some of the concepts, again, what did I say in the beginning? We're trying to kill paranoia. I want to tamp down paranoia. Paranoia will get you and others hurt, okay? Focusing my attention, not walking around spending my attention currency like this all day long, focusing on what I need to, that will reduce anxiety and help you pick out those potential threats. He mentioned getting in the head of the mindset of that criminal. That's exactly what I want to do here. That's like advanced level. This is the surface stuff. We're going to learn about what those indicators, but when you really go down the rabbit hole with this information I give you, you can reverse engineer some of these concepts. You can literally reverse engineer these concepts, and you can throw a rock in the pond. What happens when I throw a rock in the pond, everybody? Creates ripple effects, and the ripple hits the palm frond, and the frog jumps, and so on and so forth. You have secondary and tertiary effects. Okay, what the heck am I talking about? Heathrow Airport, they used to do this in Heathrow. I don't know if they still do it, but it was a pretty cool trick. They'd have to figure out if anyone passed their security area and was smuggling anything. So they'd pass the security area, but they had their contraband with them, and they were trying to smuggle it on the plane. They had to find out who these people were in the waiting area. So what did they do? They took the biggest, meanest looking cop they could find, and they threw on a tack vest and a rifle, and they gave him like a rabid dog. The dog has like foam coming out of its mouth. And they just started walking that guy around the waiting area. And the dog's like walking up, sniffing things, and he's mean mugging you, and the dog pees on your luggage. And so what do you think some behaviors were of the crowd when the dog came through? People were like, oh, baseline behavior is probably like, oh my God, it's a crazy dog, it's rabid, this guy's freaking me out. You're going to have all these baseline ripple effects happen. But as long as no one's involved in anything, you should see everyone relatively calm down back to what their baseline when that guy walks away. Okay? But that guy, he's not really looking for someone. He's just for show. He's just walking around trying to scare people. The real guy, the eyeball, I'm sitting in the back in plain clothes. I'm laying in the cut, watching everything happening, watching people's reactions, and then I'm looking for anomalies. So again, a baseline reaction would be like, oh, that's weird. They go back to normal. Let's say I got one individual in the crowd who freezes. All of a sudden, that guy starts getting close to him. He does a freeze response. He holds there. The guy passes him, and maybe he has a baggage or something. Maybe he picks it up and owns that bag after that officer passes. Or maybe it's on the floor and he does like a yawn thing and like gets up and walks away. Okay? He leaves it. 2018, does anybody leave luggage unattended in any airport, in any place on this globe? Absolutely not. Everyone knows that, okay? So boom, you just threw a rock in the pond and you made these things pop out, these anomalies come to you. So Jose, that was a very long-winded way of kind of agreeing with you, but that's a whole nother tangent we can go down. We're up on that. That's a secret stuff for the membership site we'll talk about later. But this is the layer stuff. So great question, all right? But again, going back to why they teach these observables, I want to build that hunter mindset, all right? So we've been dancing around the dance floor a little bit, and you're kind of going, hey, you know, what's up? You've been talking about these observables the whole time. I want to see some dang observables, right? So I will show you here in a second, all right? Most people, they like this information, but I need it to make sure something happens with this information, all right? Kinesics. All right. So the next the first observable domain. So that was kind of the preparatory part. And again, everybody asked questions. Jose's asking them in the chat. So by the way, I feed off your energy. So if you give me good stuff, I keep going, man. So put them in the chat, verbalize them, whatever you got to do. Again, you should see on the right-hand side of your screen a little hand icon. You can hit that hand icon and it'll show you have a question. That way it'll alert me and I can bring it up in the question area. So we talked about the brain, talked about the mindset. Now I want to talk about those specific observable indicators. And how we break those down is we break them down into domains of behavior awareness. There's physical behavior domains, and then there's environmental domains, all right? But the physical ones, they consist of kinesics, biometrics, and proxemics, all right? Some of you might have heard these before back in the day. Kinesics, nonverbals, body language. Everyone calls it body language, but it's actually so much more than just body language, right? There's a lot more to it. To give you an example, if you look up the definition of kinesics, why I use the word kinesics, people always say body language. Kinesics is more of like an encompassing term, an all-encompassing term. It grabs body language, this, that, and the other thing. So yes, body language is important, but it's not the only thing when it comes to nonverbal communication. Let me give you an example. Why is nonverbal communication so important? Depending on what literature you read, 60 to 65% of communication between humans is nonverbal. Some literature says 70%. That's a big number. Would we agree? Would you believe it's that big? I didn't believe it when I read that. I'm like, what are you talking about? We communicate using our words. I communicate with my speech. Well, put things in context. Think about it. The spoken word is relatively new in the grand scheme of things, all right? Think about it in this. Again, going back to research, some people say the spoken word is 10,000 years old. Some say it's 200,000 years old. Whatever. Everyone agrees there was a time where we were less articulate than we are today, right here and right now. We're much smarter now. So yes, we were less articulate and we still had to communicate. How did we do that? Nonverbals. Back when like Gorlak the caveman was, I don't know, picking his berries or whatever the hell cavemen did back then, he'd spot movement in his peripheral, and we're real good at spotting movement in our peripheral vision, and he'd key on it, and he'd look at that person, and he'd recognize their face. We're also very good at recognizing faces, and go, oh, okay, that's Jim Bob from Down the Way. No problem. I know that guy. Then he sees another person coming towards him. That guy's looking at him. He's looking at him. He doesn't recognize him, but the other guy breaks eye contact. He looks down. He looks away. Do we have a problem? No, that's a sign of submission right there when you break eye contact. And then the third guy walks up to that caveman and looks at him, and he's looking at him, and he's looking at him, and nobody's breaking eye contact. What do you think the next event is? Yeah, next thing they're doing is beating each other with a monkey hip bone or whatever it is they did back then. But that's okay. We're much more civilized nowadays, guys. We're much more civilized, much more polite. We don't do stuff like that anymore. That's dumb. We don't get into fights over eye contact anymore. Right? That's all in the past. Okay. So again, these are where these come from. We had that nonverbal. That's why it's so much of it. So if you believe that, if you hit the I believe button, we communicate 60 to 65% non-verbally. Okay. Ask yourself this. How much are you paying attention to on a given day? How much information are you actually taking in and processing on a given day? Your eye and your brain, everyone, like, your eye is just another organ. Your eye, listen to this, your eye takes in 7 quadrillion bits of information a second. A second, all right? That's a real number, apparently. I had to look it up. Quadrillion bits a second. What would happen if you tried to download all that information and process all that information all day, every day? What do you think would happen? You'd be in the back corner trying to lick your own elbow before the day's out. Your brain would explode. So to make sure that doesn't happen, your brain jettisons a lot of this information, all right? Again, 99% of the population, not a big deal. But if you're ever dealing with a threat or whatever and you're not conditioned, don't know what to look for, you're operating behind the power curve. You're operating right of bang. You're almost waiting for something to happen and then reacting to it, all right? I'm going to bring up a slide real quick, and it has a definition on there, all right? Bring this up right here. All right, everybody see that? Look at that definition of kinesics. That's a big fancy definition of kinesics. Go ahead and read it to yourself, write it down, whatever you want to do. But I'll ask you this. What's the most important 2 words in that definition right there up top? What do you think? Anybody else? Hold on, I'm going to unmute. I got 78 here right now. I'm going to unmute everybody, and I'll do this as long as there's not a lot of background static. Sometimes people's microphones, they produce kind of like an annoying sound. So if that's happening, sorry, I'm going to have to mute you, but I'm going to open this sucker up. All right. So everybody give me a verbal. Can you all hear me right now? Gentry?
Yes.
Anybody else?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. Cool. So I'll ask you that question one more time for the guys in there. What do you think the most important 2 words in that definition are? Without words. All that definition is important, but look at those 2 words there, without words. It's a means of communication without words. So do you see what I was talking about everyone just says body language? Yeah, body language is definitely a big part of it, but there's so much more. The tone of my voice. Can the tone of my voice communicate something to you? Yeah, I bet it can. Guys, when we're in the club and someone steps on our shoe, we want to get a little bit more bass in our voice, trying to show a little bit of intimidation. Or in the military, we'd always know it was a new guy who got on the radio. Someone would get shot at or ambushed or whatever, and the new guy would grab the radio and be like, "We're in contact, we need your help." He'd sound like Minnie Mouse on the radio, and we'd get on there and go, "Someone get the boot off the radio," because he sounds annoying. That's showing levels of stress in my voice. So eye contact, nonverbals, body language, tone. So yes, body language is a big part of it, but there's so much more of it, all right? And what's great about it with these observable indicators is I could just stop this class right now with what I'm about to say, and you're all smarter, okay? Most of the population, 99% of the population, walks around all day, every day, completely unaware of what they're giving off to the world. Completely unaware. Again, going back to yourself, think about it. How aware are you of your own nonverbals giving off? What are you giving to the world out there? Okay, so there's one component of all this stuff is one, observing people around you and seeing their reactions, but also understanding the reactions in yourself and what you're giving to the world. They can affect people sometime, right? I teach this to cops all the time. They want to learn their verbal judo, but sometimes you have personalities that clash, and I'll tell cops or law enforcement, you might have to be dealing with a citizen. Let's say you got there and they're freaking out. They're just high into the right, yelling and screaming. And then you did your verbal judo and you calmed them all down and everything's good. You're literally about to end no one's going to jail. Everyone's happy. You're about to shake your hand and that one partner shows up. That one guy shows up. Everyone has that guy in their department. Gets out of his car, doesn't even ask for your help. Kind of like, "Hey, what's going on? Yeah, you need help? Hey, what's going on? What's this guy?" And all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're fighting with a guy you were just talking to a couple minutes ago. Mace is flying everywhere. Everyone's got mace on them, and it's just a bad day. Just because of that person's nonverbals and what they were giving off, they just bottle rocketed that situation. So just be aware that you can give off a lot, all right? The more you try to hide these behaviors, the more they end up sticking out, okay? That's what's great. Think about a Walmart shopper, someone who wants to steal something from Walmart. Think about what behavioral indicators they would be giving off. Walking into a building and looking up. Why would we walk in Walmart and look up? Anybody can answer this. Why would you do that?
Looking for cameras.
Looking for cameras. Yep, cameras. Chat. Richard, good one, all right? You find yourself doing this sometimes. Hey, that's okay. That's a form of situational awareness. This is one of the big indicators you want to look for. If you can identify situational awareness in somebody's nonverbals, you got a player on the field. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know if they're a criminal or a terrorist or a good guy or a cop. I have no idea. Because here's the thing. with situational awareness. There's only two types of people that exhibit it in this world. Anybody have a guess what those two types of people are? Anything? About the good guys and bad guys. Good and the bad. The good is the criminals, the terrorists, the thieves, the bad guys. The good guys are the cops, the military, firemen, so on and so forth. That's us. So they both exhibit them. So you got to be careful. Just because you identify situational awareness, like someone walking and looking up at cameras or seeing exits, doesn't mean they're immediately a bad guy. But it does mean you got a player on the field. You have someone who's situationally aware. I hate Walmart. I hate going to the Walmart when I got to buy something. My wife drags me in there. She's yelling in my ear. I'm hoping the AC unit would just fall off and crush my head. You know, I don't have a lot of situational awareness in Walmart. So if you identify that, pay attention. Someone checking their six, someone who is consistently aware of their surroundings or what's behind them, that's someone to pay attention to. Someone who walks into an area, goes right up to the wall and puts their wall against the back and just kind of scanning the area. Again, I don't know if they're good or bad. All I'm saying is they're aware. If you ever watch TV shows like Lock Up, or just go on YouTube, watch prison yards, look at these federal penitentiaries and look at the prison yards. Usually they're segregated by race or by gang. And what do? When you see them all playing on the yard, what are a lot of them doing? They'll have their little group areas and they all got their backs up against the wall. Everyone's scanning, looking for those threats. Those prisoners there, those guys live in an active threat zone. There's threats all over the place. So you want to learn how to be situationally aware? Watch someone who has to live in a federal penitentiary. I guarantee they can give you some good indicators there. So definitely you want to pay attention to situational awareness. That could be an issue. Again, I don't know if they're good or bad, but I want to pay attention. All right. So let me get rid of that for a little bit. All right. A second. All right, everybody should be able to see me again. So we talked about situational awareness. That's definitely one of those indicators we want to pay attention to. And also pacifying behavior. Okay, we're going real high level of this stuff. I spend hours and we really deep dive in our other classes, but with this, we're just going surface. So pacifying behavior. Pacifying behavior is behavior that somebody is doing and they're trying to calm themselves down. What's happening is their brain has picked up on a threat. There's some type of threat. And your brain is very binary. It's very yes or no, okay? And when it comes to threats or violence, it goes, is it a threat or is it not a threat? If that's a yes, your body starts sending out these signals, physiological signals happening mentally, and there are observable indicators with that. So a pacifying one is you're trying to calm yourself down. So a pacifying behavior can be a lot of things. Sometimes you'll see it as nervous twitching, but it can be like cleansing of the hands. You ever had like your hands get sweaty and you start cleansing your hands? You can run your hands through your hair, cleansing the face, pinching the bridge of the nose, rubbing the temples, doing one of these numbers, all pacifying behavior. Self-touch. You ever seen someone doing this? You're looking for this kind of thing where someone doesn't even realize they're doing it and they're doing it. They're trying to calm themselves down. There's a limbic system response in there. There's a fear or threat present in that person's head. So your job is to figure out what type of threat it is. And people get it twisted when they come to my training. They think I'm going to teach you pacifying behavior or whatever, and you're going to be able to look at a crowd of like 400 people and turn the corner and be like, yeah, that guy, shoot that guy right there. No, I took an online class once. It's cool. Shoot that guy right there. It's a little bit more complicated than that. You can't look at a huge crowd. But using the stuff we've talked about, situational awareness, pacifying behavior, figuring out the rules to your context, asking yourself what the rules are to this area, you can start cutting that crowd up. So for example, you go to a mall, you go to a marketplace, wherever. What should people be doing in the mall? You walk in, you establish a baseline and start looking for those anomalies again based on those specific indicators, all right? So if you did turn the corner, hypothetically, and you're in that mall and it's 400 people, now I'm not trying to take in what every one of those 400 people are doing. I'm painting a whole bunch of them out. You ask yourself, who's doing what they should be? What are the rules here? Who's following the rules? Now I'm hunting who's not following the rules. And when you do that, you cut up 98% of your crowd and you're like, nope, don't need to pay attention to them. You can paint them out. Now you're not using that attention currency, that awareness currency on all that stuff. Now you're focused. Now you're looking for pacifying behavior. You're looking for situational awareness, specific pre-event indicators to an impending threat. All right. So now instead of 400 people, I've cut it down to 4 or 5 people. All right. So we've taken all those people and I've sifted using these observable indicators. I've sifted that crowd and looked for who could be possibly being that threat. All right. So these are the things we go over. And I wish I had more time with you. I love teaching this stuff. Wouldn't you all agree? Is this good stuff? I mean, I geek out over this stuff. People are like, oh, you're really passionate. It's like, yeah, because it's good stuff, man. You can really bite into this and you can go so many different directions. But I love having great information that has direct application to helping you stay alive, helping people around you, your loved ones, stay alive, okay? We used to have a joke back in the day, but when all the scientists came out and they proofed all this training we did, all these big smart people came back and said, you know what, a person who goes through this training comes out the other end 200% more aware of their surroundings. 200%. I'm not an educated guy. I thought it stopped at 100, but apparently it just keeps on going. All right, and that's cool. But let's say if I could only knock it down to 100%, would we take 100%? Chat, you guys can verbalize. Would you take 100% more situational awareness than you had yesterday? Would everybody take that?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, I bet everybody would. What if I could only make it 50%? If I could only make you 50% more aware than you were yesterday, would everyone take that? I bet everybody would. Let's cut it all the way down. 10%. I can only make you 10% more aware. Or 1%. 1 stupid percent. If all I can do here with you today is make you 1% more aware than you were yesterday, I bet everyone in this room would want that 1%. All right? If you're 100%, 200%, good for you. But 1%, the difference that 1% can make can bring people home, can keep people alive. Because I know I'd love to have that 1 second back at certain points in my life, if you know what I'm talking about. I'm sure there's a lot of mothers and brothers and fathers and sisters out there that would love to have that second back, that 1% back, that redo to change the outcome of a really bad situation. All right? They don't have that option anymore. You do. You have that option here, okay? If all you do is walk away from here and you never find my stuff again, good for you. But if you agree this information is good, if you agree this could help anyone in your life, again, I don't care if you ever click on anything I ever do again. If you believe this is good stuff, it's your moral obligation to let people know about this stuff. I never thought I'd be in business. I never thought I'd be trying to put out social media content and all this stuff. I fell into this, okay? And when I fell into this, I realized I got handed a gift that I can't hold to myself. I have to scream it to the rooftops. So that's why I tell people, if you think it's good information, forget about my training, all this stuff. Just make sure people know about it. People say, hey, you want to get good at something? Practice it. And I say, if you really want to get good at something, teach it. So if you think this is good information, keep learning about it. I double dog dare you. Go read about this stuff. There's tons of information out there, but I'm the one providing the one outlet for it. Go learn about it and go teach it to somebody. Teach it to your kids. Teach it to your wife, your husband, girlfriend, whatever it is. I see that every day I wake up as a moral obligation. Is something I can do today going to save one life or help someone not get hurt? Can I give one more person a 1%? Or if I could give someone 10 seconds before a kinetic situation or a piece of violence, if I can give someone that, that's what keeps me waking up every morning. It's tough. It's not easy. This is a lot of information to learn, but that's what keeps me going every day. Every day I wake up. Here I go again. But I get re-energized when I get you all to sign in. I get you asking questions. Like I said, I feed off your energy. So that's fantastic.